Discover the incredible story of a hidden bracelet that changed a billionaire's heart forever. In the heart of a quaint suburban town in Ohio, Sarah's small bakery hadn't had a customer in hours. Flour dust clung to her fingertips as she kneaded a batch of dough, a lump of worry growing inside her, tightening like her chest did every time she thought about the bills piling up. Being a single mother was tough. Running a failing bakery while raising her son, Max, felt like an uphill battle with no end in sight. Each warm loaf that came out of the oven was a testament to her deep-seated hope. But today, even the smell of fresh bread couldn't chase away the shadow that lingered since her grandmother's passing. While sorting through her grandmother's attic a few days later, amidst dusty boxes and forgotten memories, Sarah stumbled upon a hidden bracelet, the kind that told stories. It was adorned with military insignia, glinting in the dim light, and bore an inscription that read, "For bravery beyond measure." Tears filled her eyes as she turned the bracelet over in her hands. This belonged to Captain James Harrison, a local war hero, a man who once saved lives and dedicated himself to serving his country. In that moment, an idea sparked. She had to return it to his family, to honor his legacy. Hope blossomed like the fresh dough she worked with daily. This felt like a window, an opportunity amidst the storm clouds of despair that often loomed over her. Meanwhile, Daniel, a tech billionaire, found himself haunted by failure. He had retreated to his childhood home just outside town after a disastrous product launch that threatened his empire. As he stood in his old bedroom, walls lined with fading photographs of a boy who once filled the space with laughter, he was besieged by guilt. Years forsaken to ambition, leaving his father alone and disappointed. Could he ever make amends? A local community event brought Sarah and Daniel together, their worlds colliding. She stood at the microphone, her voice warm but resolute as she spoke about Captain Harrison and community values. Daniel's dismissive attitude clashed sharply with her sincerity. He watched her, intrigued despite himself. There was something refreshing in her simple passion, a contrast to the corporate greed he had known all too well. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Just as Sarah prepared to wrap up her heartfelt speech, a murmur rippled through the crowd when someone revealed a secret about the bracelet. Tension filled the air, whispers of a familial connection lit a fire beneath Daniel's feet. Shock washed over the audience as the possibility of blood ties to the brave captain surfaced. Daniel was torn between his business-centric life and the dogged determination revealed in Sarah's words. Could he truly find respect from a father he had long neglected while grappling with the pressing questions of who he had become? As the event drew to a close, a sudden announcement left everyone breathless. Would Daniel succumb to the cold allure of his corporate empire, or could he embrace the warmth of the community Sarah represented? A crucial choice loomed before him, the emotional weight of the night pressing down like the flour on his palms, and the audience held its breath, ready for what would come next. Would their lives become forever intertwined, or would fate's unpredictability lead them in different directions? The crowd buzzed with murmurs, caught in a web of speculation and excitement. Sarah's heart raced as she caught Daniel's gaze. There was a flicker of recognition, something in his eyes shifting as though a door had suddenly opened in his mind. She could feel the tension radiating from him, a powerful force. Who's related to Captain Harrison? Someone shouted from the back, breaking the spell. The question hung in the air, heavy with anticipation. Daniel's chest tightened. He had come to this event seeking solace, but now, what felt like a spark of belonging threatened to ignite some long-buried regret. The bracelet clutched in Sarah's hand, a catalyst for change, began to glow with possibility. His mind raced, thoughts crashing together like waves in a storm. What if he was related to a man of honor? He could almost hear his late father's voice chiding him for his choices, reminding him of the values he had abandoned in his quest for success. Could he live up to a legacy worth fighting for? As Sarah carefully continued her speech, sharing stories of bravery and community, she caught snippets of Daniel's internal struggle. He seemed like a man trapped, a figure torn between two worlds, the ruthlessness of business and the warmth of compassion. Intrigued, she spoke louder, pouring her heart into her words. "Let us honor the sacrifices made by our heroes," she said, her voice steady despite the nerves, "and remember that it's our connections to each other that truly matter." Daniel's heart raced again. His mother had always spoken of honoring family, but he had failed to embrace it. Could he be the son his father deserved? Or the man Sarah might need by her side? The crowd erupted in applause, and Sarah smiled, feeling the swell of acceptance. But as she glanced back at Daniel, she saw the flicker of conflict in his eyes. He was a man teetering on the edge of a decision that could change everything. "I need to speak to him," Daniel murmured to himself, barely audible against the noise of the crowd. He took a step toward Sarah, but fear gripped him. What if he wasn't good enough? What if she meant to honor Captain Harrison while Daniel only wanted to escape his past? Feeling the pressure around her, Sarah took a deep breath, resolved. This moment was not just about the bracelet, it was about possibilities. She could feel that. The same dough that rose in her bakery, the same hope that had always fueled her dreams, began to align her courage with the mission she had set out to accomplish. "Daniel!" she called out, voice lifting above the whispers. Meeting his eyes head-on, she felt a spark of mutual understanding pass between them. His feet moved before his mind could catch up. Daniel crossed the distance between them, his heart pounding in rhythm with the pulse of the crowd. I want to help with the bracelet," he said, trying to mask the uncertainty masking his resolve. "Together, we can honor him," she responded, hope twinkling in her expression. Could they actually join forces in this unexpected journey? As they locked eyes, the giant silent question loomed high above them: would this bracelet weave their fates together, or merely ignite the shadows of their pasts? And in that heartbeat of hesitation, a new chapter awaited, one bound to test their willingness to embrace vulnerability and transformation. What would their partnership reveal about their true selves, and would it lead them to something greater than either had ever imagined? As Daniel stood before Sarah, the weight of his decision settled heavily on his shoulders. Could he really step out of his past and into something meaningful? The noise of the crowd faded into the background, and all he could hear was the steady thrum of his own heartbeat, matching the rhythm of Sarah's determined gaze. The world seemed to narrow down to this moment. "I want to do more than just help, I want to understand," he said, his voice intense but edged with vulnerability. He could feel the grip of fear loosening slightly, replaced by a glimmer of hope. Sarah's eyes sparkled with encouragement. "Then let us figure this out together. Captain Harrison means so much to this community. We owe it to him and to ourselves." Her voice resonated with passion and a belief he desperately wanted to latch onto. Daniel felt the urge to pull back, to retreat into familiar territory, but something inside him pushed forward. "Okay, what's our first step?" Her smile widened, and in that instant, he knew they were part of something bigger. "We need to find out more about Captain Harrison's story, his legacy. This bracelet, it's a piece of that. It holds history." As she spoke, he noticed the way her passion ignited everyone around her, sparking intrigue and support from those near. It filled him with an unexpected sense of purpose. He was not just a businessman, he was a part of a narrative that transcended profit margins. "Let us start by reaching out to his family," Daniel suggested. "They might have stories or records we could look through." It felt right, like a commitment he was finally willing to embrace. "Yes. And maybe we can organize a community event to share what we find," Sarah replied, infectious enthusiasm lighting her features. "We can honor his memory by sharing this journey with everyone." The thought of working alongside Sarah, combining their strengths to honor someone who had given so much, flickered a warmth inside him that had been absent for too long. The crowd began to disperse as people exchanged ideas, energized by Sarah's speech. Daniel felt a pull toward his newfound purpose and, surprisingly, a connection to Sarah that was deeper than he anticipated. It was as if they were weaving their stories together into something vibrant and alive. "Hey," Daniel said hesitantly, catching her attention as they moved away from the throng. "Do you think we're really capable of this? Digging up the past, honoring a hero?" Sarah turned to him, sincere and steady. "If we believe, we can do anything. It starts with the first step." His heart soared and sank at once as he contemplated that leap into the unknown. They both had wounds and insecurities, but maybe that's what made them human. As they planned their next moves, the butterfly effect of their choices began to unfold. Would they find the courage to confront the shadows of their pasts? The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows, but the air was filled with possibility and the promise of redemption. They were about to embark on a journey that would challenge them both, shake their foundations, and force them to confront truths they had long tried to avoid. But as Daniel felt the warmth of Sarah's hand brushing against his, a sudden thought struck him: what if the bracelet was more than just a piece of history? What was it hiding, and would the discovery of its secrets change their lives forever? The next morning, Daniel awoke with the sun streaming through his window, illuminating the corners of his bedroom. He blinked against the light, the events of the previous day swirling in his mind like a film reel. Memories of Sarah's passionate voice echoed, igniting a fire within him that he had thought extinguished. He sat up and slowly rubbed the remnants of sleep from his eyes, aware that today would not be a typical day. Today, they would dive into something profound. After a quick breakfast, he headed to his office. The atmosphere felt different. The soft hum of machines and muted conversations no longer seemed to attract his focus. Instead, he found it difficult to remember the spreadsheets piling up on his desk. Instead, his mind was occupied with thoughts of Captain Harrison and the mysterious bracelet. What stories did it hold? What secrets waited to be uncovered? A sudden knock on his door jolted him back to reality. It was Sarah, her bright smile lighting up the room. "Are you ready?" she asked, enthusiasm radiating off her, like the sun outside. "More than ever," he replied, a rush of determination lifting his spirits. They decided to meet at the local library, a quaint building that had withstood the test of time, much like the stories it held. As they stepped inside, the comforting scent of old books wrapped around them. Dust motes floated through the beams of sunlight streaming in, and Daniel felt a sense of calm wash over him. Sarah approached the librarian, an older woman with gentle eyes. After a brief introduction, they discussed their mission, and the librarian pointed them toward a collection of historical records related to Captain Harrison. Daniel's excitement mounted as Sarah handed him a worn volume. Inside were newspaper clippings, photographs, and stories, fragments of a life once lived. As they pored over the documents, Daniel's fingers trembled with anticipation. He felt as if they were unearthing a treasure. They read about Captain Harrison's bravery during a storm at sea, a story that echoed through the pages like a muted drumbeat of history. Every detail they uncovered only deepened their resolve. "Look at this," Sarah exclaimed, pointing to a faded photograph. "That's him, standing on the deck of his ship." Her eyes sparkled with inspiration, and Daniel felt the atmosphere in the library change around them. They were not just uncovering history, they were channeling the spirit of someone who had lived with purpose and distinction. They spent hours diving deeper, the world outside receding into oblivion. With each discovery, they felt Captain Harrison's legacy weave into their own lives, illuminating shadows that had lingered for too long. Daniel's heart began to beat with hope. He could feel the ghost of the past entwining with the present, pushing him to conquer both the inner and outer battles he had fought for years. As the sun lowered in the sky, they stepped outside, the warm glow of the setting sun casting long shadows across the ground. Daniel looked at Sarah, her face glowing with the excitement of discovery, and felt a flicker of something he hadn't dared to acknowledge before. Was it hope? Possibility? The urge to share this journey with her, but just as he was about to voice his thoughts, Sarah's expression shifted from excitement to concern. "There's something else," she said, her voice lowering. "While we were in there, I found a note shuffled between the pages. It's dated the day before he disappeared. I couldn't read it all, but it mentioned a secret, something important he was keeping. The air between them thickened. What secret had Captain Harrison taken to his grave, and how would it change everything? As Daniel's mind raced, a deep instinct kicked in, wrapping around his consciousness. Whatever lay ahead would undoubtedly test their courage, but together, they were a force to be reckoned with. What awaited them as the shadows of the past beckoned? Daniel felt his heartbeat quicken at Sarah's revelation. The note from Captain Harrison could be the key to understanding the man whose legacy had captivated them. "We need to find that note," he said, urgency creeping into his voice. "Let us go back," Sarah suggested, determination shining in her eyes. They hurried back inside the library, their footsteps echoing off the marbled floor. The librarian looked up, sensing their intensity. "Everything all right?" she asked, concern lacing her tone. "We need to look again," Daniel said, breathless. "There's something we missed." As they returned to the same table, their previous excitement transformed into a palpable tension. The worn volume lay patiently waiting, its pages as vulnerable as secrets long kept. Sarah gently opened the book to the page where she had found the note, her fingers trembling slightly. There it was, a folded piece of paper tucked neatly between the pages, as if it had been yearning to be found. Sarah held it delicately, her eyes scanning the lines, yet a flicker of fear crossed her features. "What if it's something dangerous? Or something that can set us free?" Daniel countered, his voice steady as he reached for the note. He unfolded it with careful precision, his breath caught in his throat. The words were scrawled in a hurried hand, the ink smudged in places but still legible. "I will never forget that night when everything changed," he read aloud, his voice barely above a whisper. "There were choices, paths that led me away from the man I wanted to be." The words sank into his mind like a stone cast into still water, sending ripples of uncertainty and curiosity. What did he mean? Choices? Paths? Daniel wondered aloud, glancing at Sarah, whose expression mirrored his own confusion. The day before he disappeared, maybe he was onto something important, Sarah mused. Something that might explain why he never returned. They exchanged a look, an unspoken understanding passing between them. They weren't just solving a mystery, they were unraveling a life full of depth and regret, much like their own. "We should dig deeper into his story," Daniel insisted. "If there's a connection between what he faced and our lives now, we owe it to him to find out." With renewed purpose, they headed to the library archives. They combed through dusty records and old logs, trying to piece together Captain Harrison's final days. Each new document they uncovered letters, more photographs, even weather reports painted a clearer picture of the man's last moments. Hours slipped away as night fell and streetlights flickered to life outside the library windows. Each discovery ignited a fire inside Daniel, illuminating paths of self-understanding he'd long ignored. But a nagging thought pulled at him. What if this secret changes everything we've learned about him? About ourselves? As they paused, darkness settled like a blanket over the outside world, creating a bubble of intimacy within the archives. Sarah's voice broke the silence again, laced with urgency. "We're getting closer, Daniel. But what if the secret he was keeping puts us in danger?" His heart raced at the thought. What if Captain Harrison's shadow extended beyond mere history? The library seemed to hold its breath as they locked eyes, weighing the unknown against their growing bond. This journey had transformed from mere curiosity to something more personal, something profound. Would their answers leave them whole or shattered? And what awaited them on the other side of Captain Harrison's secret? As they prepared to delve deeper, determined to confront whatever lay ahead, the past loomed large, whispering promises and threats with equal intensity. What was it that Captain Harrison saw on the horizon just before he vanished? Whatever it was, Daniel knew one thing: their adventure was only just beginning. The room felt stifling as Daniel and Sarah resumed their search. The soft rustle of paper and the subtle scent of aged books added to the weight of the task ahead. They sifted through stacks of files, but their minds were elsewhere, entangled in the mystery of Captain Harrison's life. Daniel's fingers brushed against another letter, this one yellowed with age and frayed at the edges. He pulled it out gently, intrigued. As he read the flowing script, something in his gut tightened. It spoke of a hidden treasure, something buried not far from where they stood. "Sarah, come look at this," he called, hardly able to contain his excitement. She rushed over, her eyes wide with curiosity. "What is it?" "This letter, it talks about a bracelet. A family heirloom that Harrison was desperately trying to recover. He feared it might hold more value than anyone ever realized." "A bracelet?" Sarah's brow furrowed as she considered the implications. Why would he be so obsessed with something like that? Was it more than just a piece of jewelry? Daniel nodded, his thoughts racing. It sounds like it meant something to him personally. Maybe it represented a part of his life that he left behind when he vanished. After reading the letter together, they shared a moment of silence. The revelation stirred deeper questions, echoing the very dilemmas they faced in their own lives. Was there something each of them held onto, buried deep, that defined who they were? "That bracelet could be tied to the choices he made," Sarah said slowly, her voice trembling slightly. "It could lead us to understand why he never returned to the life he knew." "Exactly. We need to find out where it is," Daniel replied, a spark of determination lighting his eyes. "If we can trace its path, it might lead us to the truth about his disappearance." They began to chart a plan, scouring the notes for any clues that might hint at the bracelet's location. With each new scrap of information, the mystery deepened. Daniel could feel adrenaline coursing through him. This wasn't just about a bracelet, it was about uncovering the very core of a man's heart, the fears, regrets, and decisions that so often shaped one's fate. As they continued, the air thick with possibility, Sarah's voice broke through again. "But if Harrison was desperate to retrieve that bracelet, wouldn't someone else want it too?" A chill ran down Daniel's spine at the thought. What if it's not just a story from the past? What if there are people who will stop at nothing to get their hands on it? Their quest suddenly felt dangerous, a trip into the unknown, where shadows of the past could collide with their present in unexpected ways. Daniel looked at Sarah, seeing the challenge in her eyes. They were in this together, ready to face whatever came next. "Then we'll find it first," he said with resolve, his heart pounding. As the weight of the mission settled between them, Daniel noticed a flicker of movement outside the library window. A figure lingered in the shadows, unseen yet undeniably present. "Did you see that?" he murmured, heart racing anew. "Yes." "What was it?" Sarah turned, her expression tight with concern. The mystery was deepening, but so was the danger. The adventure was far from over, and now it was laced with a thrill that sent adrenaline surging through their veins. Who were they about to confront, and what consequence would come from their pursuit? Before they could decide on their next move, the weight of the past and the urgency of the moment collided. The truth was beckoning, but so were the shadows. What secrets would unfold, and at what cost? Daniel's heart raced as he stepped toward the window, peering into the encroaching dusk. The figure outside was elusive, hidden by the shadows of towering trees. He turned to Sarah, whose eyes mirrored his unease. "We need to figure out what that was," he said, taking a deep breath. Sarah nodded, her voice a whisper. "Should we go out there?" "Let us grab the flashlight," Daniel decided quickly, his mind racing. They quickly rummaged through the desk drawers until they found a small, powerful flashlight. He clicked it on, its beam slicing through the dimness like a knife through fog. With cautious steps, they made their way toward the back door of the library, the old wood creaking under their weight. Each step seemed to amplify the tension surging between them. And Daniel felt the air thickening around them, almost stifling. Outside, the world was painted in indigo shadows. The moon hung high, illuminating patches of the garden. The only sound was the rustling of leaves, as if the trees were whispering secrets. He swept the flashlight around, its beam dancing over the ground, revealing nothing. Over there. Sarah pointed, her voice barely above a whisper. Daniel followed her gaze as the light hit a figure partially obscured by the branches. His pulse quickened. "Hey!" he called, trying to sound more assertive than he felt. "Who are you?" For a moment, nothing happened. Daniel felt a rush of adrenaline. Had it been a figment of his imagination? Then, the figure stepped forward, revealing a young man, his features sharp and his eyes wide with surprise. I'm sorry," he stammered, raising his hands defensively. "I didn't mean to scare you. I was just... I'm looking for something." "What are you looking for?" Sarah asked, her curiosity piqued despite her fear. The stranger hesitated before giving an answer. "A bracelet. A family heirloom, actually." Daniel exchanged glances with Sarah, his heartbeat thrumming in his ears. "A bracelet?" he repeated, trying to keep his voice steady. "Is it by any chance Captain Harrison S.?" The young man's eyes narrowed, analyzing them carefully. "You know about Harrison?" "We've been researching him," Sarah replied, stepping forward, emboldened by their shared purpose. "His heirloom. Do you know anything about it?" "I was told it might be here," he said, glancing back toward the library. "But I didn't think anyone else would be here." Daniel could feel a knot tightening in his chest. This was more than just a simple search, this was turning into something greater than they had imagined. "Why do you need it so badly?" he pressed. The stranger swallowed hard, emotion flickering across his face. It's complicated. My mother lost it a long time ago. It meant everything to her, it's all we have left of her past." The weight of his words settled in the air. Daniel could see it now, this wasn't merely about a bracelet or treasure, it was about family, legacy, and the things they all hold dear. "I think we might be able to help you," Sarah finally offered, a softness in her voice, hands clasped tightly in front of her. A brief flicker of relief crossed the young man's face, but it was mixed with uncertainty. "If you're serious, then we have to move fast. I'm not the only one looking for it." The urgency in his tone pierced through Daniel's resolve. "What do you mean?" Before the stranger could reply, a distant noise echoed from the direction of the main road, a car pulling up, tires crunching on gravel. Sarah and Daniel exchanged worried glances, their instincts telling them they weren't alone in their quest any longer. "Whatever is happening, it's escalating quickly," Daniel said, gripping the flashlight tighter. "We need to figure this out before it's too late." Together, they turned back to the library, filled with a newfound determination and dread. Who else was out there, and what were they willing to do for a simple piece of jewelry? Would they find the bracelet before it was too late, or would they lose everything trying? As they entered the library once more, the shadows of their pursuit hung heavy, hinting at more secrets yet to be uncovered. The deeper they delved, the more perilous their journey became. Would the truth set them free or ensnare them deeper into a world of danger? Inside the library, the atmosphere had shifted. The flickering light from the flashlight cast long shadows that seemed to crawl across the walls, creeping into every corner and bringing with it an unsettling tension. Daniel felt the weight of the moment pressing down on him. He should have felt safer in the deserted old building, but the potential danger felt closer than ever. "We should split up," Daniel suggested, his voice firm but edged with uncertainty. "We can cover more ground if we check different areas." Sarah's brow furrowed as she considered his proposal. "What if we run into that other group?" The mention of others on the hunt for the bracelet sent a fresh wave of apprehension through Daniel. "Then we'll need to be careful. But if we find the bracelet first, we might just be able to figure out what's really going on." After a moment's hesitation, she finally nodded. "All right. You check the upstairs, I'll search down here." "Be careful," he urged, knowing how alone they truly felt as they began to split up. Daniel's footsteps echoed against the wooden stairs as he ascended to the second floor. The air grew cooler, and he could hear the faint creaking of the beams settling, sounds magnified by the silence. Each room he entered was filled with dusty tomes and forgotten history. He swept the beam of the flashlight across a table cluttered with old maps and letters, but nothing grabbed his attention. Just as doubt began to creep in, he heard a noise, a faint rustle, like an old book lazily turning its pages. His heart raced, and instinct pulled him closer to the source. He cautiously approached a door at the end of the hall. When he pushed it open, sunlight streamed in through grime-coated windows, illuminating a small room filled with old trunks and crates. He moved to inspect them, flipping open a latch on a weathered trunk. There, amongst cobwebs and dust, lay a velvet pouch. He knelt beside it, his hands trembling slightly as he untied the drawstring. Inside, the glimmer of something metallic caught the light. It was a bracelet, ornate, engraved, and unmistakably ancient. This had to be it. Had they really just found what they were looking for? But joy was short-lived. A loud crash shattered the silence as footsteps thundered up the stairs, too heavy and chaotic to be anything but alarm. "Daniel!" Sarah's voice rang out, laced with panic. He quickly shoved the bracelet back into the pouch, clutching it tightly in his hand, the weight of it feeling strangely heavy. "I'm here. What's wrong? Someone south searching the place. They're not here to ask questions," she shouted. He moved toward the door, heart pounding. "We need to hide." As adrenaline surged, Daniel ducked behind the old trunk, holding his breath. He heard hurried footsteps approach, then the door swung open, revealing a shadowy figure silhouetted in the light. "Where are you?" A deep voice growled, searching the room like a wolf hunting its prey. Daniel's pulse quickened, dread settled in his stomach. Just when they thought they were in control of this chaotic search, reality threw them into the lion's den. He glanced down at the pouch in his hand. This bracelet held the key to so much more than he had originally assumed: legacies, family histories, and now, perhaps, danger. With the intruder still combing through the space, Daniel felt the weight of his next choice. Should he give himself away to protect Sarah? Or hold on to the bracelet, risking everything for the sake of a secret that could change lives? The choice felt monumental, but time was slipping away, and Daniel knew they had to act swiftly. As he gathered his resolve, the room darkened when the figure shifted toward him. Would they be discovered before they could unlock the mysteries hidden within that bracelet? Fear gripped him, urging action. The chase for clarity had become a chase for survival. In their quest for the truth, would they pay the ultimate price? The intruder moved closer, and Daniel held his breath, praying he wouldn't abandon the secret he now possessed. The old trunk pressed hard against his back, the wood cold and unforgiving, as he fought to silence the frantic beating of his heart. Whoever this person was, they intended to find him. A shadow flitted across the dusty floor, momentarily blinding him as the figure stepped into the patch of light. Daniel's heart sank when he recognized the silhouette. It was Eric, the leader of the group searching for the bracelet. "What's taking you so long, Mark?" Eric barked, voice low and heavy with impatience. "We're running out of time." Daniel was still as a statue, suddenly aware of how dangerously close they were to being caught. He risked a glance at the doorway. Sarah had to be elsewhere, potentially in her own hiding spot. The remembrance was a sharp pressure in his chest. "Maybe he's hiding," another voice chimed in, deeper and gravelly. A man Daniel recognized as Mike, someone who basked in chaos. "He thinks he can outsmart us." "Split up and look for him," Eric ordered, pushing past a stack of old books, sending them crashing to the floor. Panic bubbled inside Daniel. He could hear footsteps retreating, spreading out in the library's vastness. How long until they found Sarah? The memory of her determined face as they searched for the bracelet surged with urgency. In one swift motion, Daniel stood, gripping the pouch tightly. He felt the rough fabric between his fingers, the weight of the bracelet within a piece of history that could change everything if it fell into the wrong hands. "Daniel!" Sarah's voice cut through the library like a knife, frantic yet breathless. His heart lurched. "Sarah!" he yelled back. "Here. Come on, hurry." He dashed toward her voice, quieting his footsteps. The small room he had exited was a maze of clutter, and he moved swiftly, the quiet hum of the searchers growing weaker as he drew closer to her. "Where are you?" he whispered, feeling the walls close in as he approached a doorway at the far end of the hallway. "Over here." There she was, crouched low behind a stack of leather-bound volumes. Her eyes sparkled with fear, but relief washed over her face as she spotted him. "Did you find it?" she asked, urgency spilling from her lips. "Yes. But we need to get out of here," he urged, hands weaving through the air anxiously. "They're searching for us." "It's only a matter of time before they." A loud thud interrupted his words, sending a reverberation through the floor as the door to the room banged against the wall. Eric and Mark were already looking for them. "Let us go," Sarah whispered fiercely, her determination echoing Daniel's own. They slipped into the shadows of the stacks, guiding themselves through the dust and memories, searching for an exit. "Do you think they saw us?" Daniel whispered as they ducked behind a shelf. "Not yet," Sarah replied, keeping her tone steady, but Daniel could see the worry etched on her face. "But we can't wait any longer." As footsteps grew louder, Daniel realized they were cornered. His mind raced, searching for a way out. He glanced back at the heavy fire door at the library's entrance. It was locked. It would take too long to get through. "Daniel," Sarah's voice trembled slightly, "what if we don't make it out?" The gravity of her words sank in, suffocating him. He turned to her, and a flicker of hope ignited in his chest. "We will. I promise," he said, though knowing well promises like these could falter under pressure. Just then, a light flicked on in the darkness, searching every nook and cranny. It waved near their hiding spot, and Daniel froze. A blinding glare could expose them in an instant. "Now or never," he whispered. As they prepared to move, the need to act quickly mixed with the haunting fear of the choice before them. Would they sacrifice their safety for the mystical bracelet that held their fate? Turning to Sarah, he shared one last glance filled with unspoken words. They were about to run into uncertainty, but would they emerge with more than just the truth? Before they could decide, the door swung open wider, and the intruders rushed in. Would they now be captured, or would they grasp a chance to escape into the unknown? The moment hung in the air, thick with tension. Daniel clutched the pouch tightly, feeling its weight as if it held not just a bracelet but a galaxy of hopes and fears. Sarah mirrored his anxiety, her eyes darting between the looming darkness and the light filtering through the doorway. As the shadowy figures moved closer, Daniel whispered, "On 3." Sarah nodded, determination sparking in her eyes. Taking a deep breath, he counted, 1, 2, 3. They bolted from their hiding spot, adrenaline surging through their veins like electricity. The intruders startled, their eyes widening in disbelief. Daniel felt the rush of wind against his face as he sprinted past them, pulling Sarah along. "This way!" he shouted, desperation fueling him as they dashed for a side exit they had scouted earlier. The doorway loomed ahead, a beacon of escape. But before they reached it, Eric's voice boomed, "Don't let them get away." Panic bubbled in Daniel's chest, realizing they had to outsmart their pursuers. He yanked Sarah into a nearby alcove, pressing them both against the cold cement wall, heart pounding in their throats. "Keep quiet," Daniel whispered, barely able to hear his own words over the thunder of footsteps drawing near. They could hardly breathe, their fear palpable. Through the narrow gap, they watched as Eric and his minions cornered the library, splitting up but keeping their eyes peeled. "We'll search every inch," Eric growled, determination etched on his face. "That bracelet is ours." A chill ran down Daniel's spine. What were they really after? The urgency of the truth mingled with the darkness encroaching on their escape. Sarah broke their silence, her voice barely above a whisper. We can't let them have it. Agreed, he replied, his mind churning. But we need a distraction. Something to buy us time. His eyes drifted to a nearby shelf, heavy with books. A plan took root. Follow my lead, he said, already moving into position. With every ounce of strength, he shoved the nearest stack of books onto the ground, sending them crashing down. The sound echoed through the library like thunder. What was that? Eric snapped, spinning toward the noise. The other intruders rushed toward the commotion. Now, Sarah, now. With one last glance, they dashed toward the exit. As they charged out, the cool night air hit them like a wave of courage. They sprinted toward the edge of the parking lot, panting but electrified with newfound hope. Can you drive? Daniel asked, glancing around for any sign of their pursuers. My car is just a few spots down, she replied, and they raced toward it, hearts pounding furiously. In moments, they were inside, slamming the doors shut. Oh, God! Sarah exclaimed as she fumbled with the keys, finally igniting the engine. Drive! Daniel shot, looking back to see shadows moving in the distance, Eric's furious face cutting through the darkness. The tires screeched as they sped away, leaving the library behind. The rural roads blurred past them, a chaotic blend of adrenaline and relief sweeping over Daniel. He could hardly wrap his mind around the thrill of their escape mixed with the urgency of what they'd uncovered. In the darkened car, a moment of silence surrounded them, a muted recognition of the danger they'd just fled. What now? Sarah panted, gripping the steering wheel. Now, Daniel began, his thoughts racing, we find out what's really in that pouch. But why would they go to such lengths for a bracelet? Sarah looked at him, worry woven into her features. It's not just a bracelet, whatever Captain Harrison knew, it's lost history, perhaps something of incredible value. It's part of something bigger. They exchanged determined glances, and in that shared look, they both knew they were in it together, bound by this journey of unraveling secrets and pursuing redemption. The bracelet hadn't just united their lives, it was tethering them to something transformative. First, we need to lay low. Let us find a safe place, Daniel suggested. They traveled down winding roads until they reached a small motel lit softly in the glow of old neon signs. This will work, he said, weary yet resolute. They parked and entered the lobby, the musty air filled with lingering memories. Inside their room, they quickly locked the door behind them, exhaling in unison, the stress of the day washing over them with quiet relief. Daniel glanced at the pouch resting between them on the small table. Should we look? He asked, voice barely above a whisper. Together, Sarah insisted, her determination igniting a fire in him. He nodded, and they moved closer, fingers trembling with anticipation as he carefully opened the pouch. Inside, the bracelet glinted beneath the dim light, each facet seeming alive with stories yearning to be told. Daniel lifted it gingerly, his breath catching. It's beautiful. Look. Sarah pointed at the engravings, minute inscriptions that seemed to tell tales of bravery, loss, and legacy all at once. They marveled together, feeling the heartbeat of history pulse through the delicate metal. Then, carefully, Sarah unfolded the note they had found in the library. We should read this, she said. As she held it out to him, Daniel's heart raced. Together, they unfolded the crumpled paper, eyes scanning the scrawled handwriting that spoke volumes. We need to find the location, he read silently, feeling the gravity of the words weigh heavy in his mind. That could be where he hid the treasure, Sarah pursued, eyes widening. But what if the truth leads us to danger again? Daniel sighed, meeting her gaze. But if we don't discover it, we'll never truly honor his journey. Capturing that legacy is the least we could do. Those words echoed with the heartbeat of hope, binding them tighter together. As they talked late into the night, plotting their next move, the enormity of their quest sank in. They now held the key. This was more than just a bracelet. This was a chance for transformation, a bridge leading into their personal pasts, intertwined with the legacy of Captain Harrison. Exhaustion tugged at them, but they stayed awake, wondering what possibilities lay ahead. The night deepened, a soft blanket of stars flickering through the window, illuminating the small space where they dared to dream of tomorrow. The journey was far from over. Each hidden corner they uncovered held promise and peril, and whatever lay ahead in the shadows or in the light would transform their lives forever. As they prepared to rest, Daniel knew this was just the beginning. And together, no matter the challenges, they were ready to embrace whatever fate had in store. A new dawn awaited, one where they would dare to unveil the truth and discover who they were truly meant to be. This is your moment to seize the narrative. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your love for the journey. Comment your reactions about the breathtaking ending. Your insights matter, and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to support the channel now, and true fans know the importance of these actions. Don't wait not even one more second.